Hello, and welcome back to Diecast Graveyard. My name is Paul. Thanks for joining me today. Today for this restoration or Restomod, as we're going to do, this is the double header. Now this casting was released in 1973, and it was one of 3 new castings released by Hot Wheels in '73. Now this particular one was made in Hong Kong only and came with a enamel paint job, an opaque paint job. And it's a pretty cool casting, but it definitely needs some freshening up. So we're going to take this apart and have some fun. Sit back, grab your favorite adult beverage, and join in today as we do a Restomod on this double header. Let's go ahead and get started with today's build.
It's time to start the autopsy.
I've already drilled out the post, so let's go ahead and get this bad boy apart. Here's the body. Now these things can definitely be broken very easily. We got a post in the front and one in the back. The foil or wing in the back is a little bit bent, so we're going to straighten that up. We're going to do a wheel swap on this bad boy. Now there's a lot of casting lines on this car too. I'm going to go ahead and file some of these down. Now some people go, oh, don't take out the casting lines, that's the character. Well, you know what? I like a nice clean car, so that's what I'm going to do to my car. Here's the interior and the outside shell for the engine. That's in pretty good shape. Here's the windshield. It does have a crack in it, and we can get a replacement, but I just didn't have one at the moment, so we're going to use what we have. There's the crack right there, but we're going to take care of it. Let's go ahead and move on. Here we're going to dip it in the embalming fluid, or as most people know it, citrus strip. Let's get a good coating on that car because we are going to do a complete color change. Now again, this is opaque enamel on this car, and we're going to hit it up with some Spectre Flame paint. Shake off your excess, put it on a tray or something, and put it out in the open so you can see when the car has the paint completely bubbled off so you can get right back to doing your work. Let's let that set for a while and we'll get back to it. Here's the base. We're going to go ahead and grind out these wheels. Now I happen to be using this sanding wheel, but I just couldn't find my bits at the moment, so I went ahead and used this. But this will work just fine also if you don't have any of the titanium bits that you use to go ahead and take these wheels out. Grind it down to the point where you can get the axle out of there. And we're not going to save these wheels. These particular ones are actually pretty trashed. So I'm not worried about hurting the axle on this thing. As we pull it up, it is going to bend the axle anyway. Now you're going to have to get back in there with a file to widen out the channel to put your new wheels in. There you go. We just need a little bit of help here. Just twist it and pull it out. There you go. Yeah, so like I said, we're going to have to get a file and widen out that channel to get the new wheels in. And there's today's tip from your Uncle Paulie. Now do the same thing to the front and get that axle out of there. Let's go ahead and move on. Now we're going to go ahead and polish up the base. Here I'm going to use some flits. Just a little bit on there. You don't want to put too much on there. And that's probably a little too much. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that little bell to be alerted to any future videos that come out. If you're getting anything out of these videos, Mash that like button, hit that subscribe button. We got a lot more content coming out in the future, but folks, I need your support. So go ahead and subscribe and hit that like button, please. Let's go ahead and speed this up. That looks pretty darn awesome. We'll go ahead and clean that up and wipe it down. That looks fantastic. Let's move on. Now we're going to polish up the body. Like I say here, with this particular car, because of the thin points where the engine is, you really need to be careful here, because if that Dremel or whatever you're using to polish your car kicks back, you could snap that thing. So please be careful with this. This is not one of your more popular castings, and it was released more as a promotional, like for Shell Oil or something like that. It came in several different types of packaging, and there is a regular version of this, but again, it's only the opaque enamel. That's starting to look pretty awesome already. Let's go ahead and move on. Now it's time to make some new axles and wheels for the car. Here I've used this piano wire, this .020 music wire. And this is the size right here that you need. And this is number 5499 from K&S Hobbies. I used some wheel bearings, and you can get these from Second Chance Redlines. Now they also have the ones that just slip over the end of old axles. But the axles that were in there, like I said, were pretty trashed. Now that I got the bearings on here, we're going to use these fence pliers, and we're going to squeeze the end to widen it out so the wheel bearings won't come out. Give it a real good squeeze. Now, no matter how hard you try, this music wire or any wire like that is very, very hard. So after a while, those fence pliers are going to wear out on the very ends. Just be aware of that. Now, the axle does stick out a little bit past the concave portion of the bearing. You're going to have to file that down a little bit to get that to be inside the bearing. Because if you don't, the wheel is going to rub on the inside of the bearing there, and it will hold up the wheel. So you need to file it down so it's inside the bearing, so it doesn't rub on the inside of the wheel. That's better. That's not too bad. You could even take it down just a hair more, but that looks pretty good. So that's what I did with these. Now there is a little bit of play in there. Make sure you center up your axle so it doesn't rub when you put your wheels on. Get you some of that UV super glue, that super weld from JB Weld, or use regular super glue. Now you also can get an accelerator and harden that up really quick. Now that looks pretty good. Again, you can get bearings from Second Chance Redlines. They've got a really good selection of stuff there. So go check them out at scredlines.com. Let's go ahead and get these wheels on. We got a set of medium meats for the front and a set of large meats for the back. That looks pretty good. So instead of the wheels with the hole in the middle so you can see the axle, I went ahead and put actual red lines on here. And that's why I call this transformation a Restomod, or modification. That looks pretty darn good. I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and move on. That's looking really sweet. Okay, now we're going to take care of the windshield. And like I said, it's got a small crack in it. I went with several different kinds of sandpaper here. I started out with approximately 800 grit, went to 1,000, went to 1,200, went up a little higher, and smoothed it down to get the scratches out of it. Now we're going to put it in the gauzy. Now when you go ahead and mix up the gauzy, take your time and flip it over slow like you're seeing here. If you mix it up really fast or shake it, it's going to have a lot of bubbles in it. And you don't want that because those bubbles will transfer to your plastic. Now you can also use a product like Pledge Revive or Future Floor Finish. Technically, or straight up, you'll get a better deal with the Pledge Revive or the Future Floor Finish because there's a lot more in the bottle. But for some reason, it's very difficult to find in the stores. If you do find it, and it's not that expensive, go ahead and grab yourself an extra bottle. It's not going to go bad on your shelf. The gauzy's fantastic, and it works, okay? Ask Jim Silva. Wacky Jim Silva, man. He's Mr. Gauzy and Mr. J.B. Weld. Let's go ahead and move on. Now it's time to paint up the body. Here I'm using Spectre Flame Lime Green, or Apple Green. Go ahead and get all your hard to reach places first, like up in the fender wells and on the inside of the car. But go very lightly. You want to put down what is called a tack coat, which is a very light coat. And in between coats, you want to let it set for about 10 to 15 minutes. This gives the paint time to start to harden up and everything, and when you go to put subsequent coats on there, it'll give something for the paint to hold on to. Make sure you get up underneath where the wing is, up inside it. You don't want to have the car all painted up and then you look inside the inside of the wing and there's no paint there. Once I get done with the paint job, I'm going to go back over it with some Diecast Graveyard 2K Clear. Now this is my own formula, and I sell it on my website at diecastgraveyard.com. The mixture is 4-to-1, and the small bottle of hardener and the big bottle of the clear coat is a perfect mix match for what you're going to get. It's a great product, and I recommend it highly. Ask some of the other builders out there on these YouTube pages that have tried it, and they said they love it. Here's the body, all painted up and clear coated. That looks fantastic. That lime green Spectre Flame paint just pops. Here's the base, all polished up, brand new wheels and axles, and we turn it into a true red line. That looks fantastic also. Here's the windshield after it hardened with dipping in the gauzy. That turned out great. Here's the interior/exterior cover for the engine. That looks great. Let's go ahead and put it together and give my creation life. And here's what we started with. This Hot Wheels double header released in 1973. Again, this car was produced in Hong Kong. It's a pretty cool casting, and it definitely deserves all the attention that we gave it. We took the car apart, we did an autopsy, we evaluated what we had, we went ahead and we stripped off the old paint, we polished up the base, we removed some of the casting lines, but not all of them. We put some brand new wheels on there, we polished up the windshield, we scrubbed up the interior, and it turned out absolutely beautiful. Now, like I say, folks, and I always say, you can do this too. All you have to do is follow the tips and tricks that I have in my videos. I've got a how-to section on how to do certain things, but I put out a lot of content on my videos there. And this is just for you. This was a lot of fun. And look how beautiful this turned out. This was a great casting and I truly enjoyed it. Now eventually I may go ahead and get myself another windshield for this. I did have one on order. I can't remember where I put the darn thing. Anyway, so this turned out beautiful. Now you can do this with a lot of these other castings. I'm really sad that Mattel decided after a certain time to get rid of the Spectre Flame paint. I mean, yeah, they brought it back in the newer castings, but when they stopped it, to me it cheapened the different cars that they made after a certain point. But you know what? When you're doing custom work like this, you can go back and change it to anything you want to. And that's exactly what I did. Again, make sure you mash that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit your notification bell, and you'll see all the future videos we got coming out, and we've got plenty. I want to thank you for joining me today in Diecast Graveyard. I had a lot of fun time, but I make these videos for you folks, so support me by subscribing. It would really help me out. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care and cheers.